Hello, beautiful souls. This is Atul Krishna Das one more time with you. We apologize for the inconveniences. We started the stream a little while ago and then it interrupted. I guess just Krishna wanted us to reset and start over. So today we're going to have an interesting conversation that we already actually started many weeks ago. And we have discussed many times in Karma Yoga the importance of acting with devotion and offering everything to Krishna. But at the same time, many times we know that sometimes less is more and that we should not engage when it's not necessary. And at some point, we truly have to question ourselves like, should I engage in this or not? Is this one of those cases where it's better just to look within, to meditate, to, devote myself only to myself, or this is the moment to take action and to offer it to Krishna? Or perhaps the best offering will be just in my mind at this time. So having that conversation will happen today with the wonderful Haripriya. Haripriya, hello, how are you doing?
Hello, Atul Krishna Prabhu. It's nice to be together. And yeah, Bhagavad Gita. So we're going right into chapter 5 and Arjuna's question, right? So Arjuna's in this moment of questioning. And what's interesting is Krishna's Krishna's giving some instructions and then Arjuna's asking more and more questions. So it just shows that yeah, there's a time when we really do need to question like what is our nature, right, versus like what's our nature, what's intrinsic in us that we should engage versus what's just some external desire, like I want this result. And if you're doing something just for the result, then there's all kinds of complications that come in with that. It becomes heavier even for us to experience. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but when you're like, I have to get this result, the weight is on your shoulders and you're not even in, I want to say, I don't know if some people would say enjoying the experience. Like say you're doing some service or some offering or some work. And if your mind is like, I have to get this result, it completely takes you out of that present moment. It takes you out of the experience. So I'm intrigued and excited to talk about how Krishna kind of pulls that apart to share clearly, like, do we do our work or do we do the work, like, do we do the work for an offering? Do we do the work because it's our nature? Or do we do the work for the result? So, yeah. What do you think,
Course.
Jewel?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm actually wondering what you're going to um, expand today, but I do believe that Krishna like offerings in diversity. That's my opinion. So
Mm,
sometimes Krishna may want us to reflect and go inside, to step away. But
mhm,
many times he may want us to act in a certain way. And
mhm.
I don't know, but sometimes I just feel like Krishna likes to mess around with us a little bit just to make it interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So that's like a real question. Do I step in? Do I lean back? Right? So it's like a dance. Sounds like it's a dance of,
Yes, definitely.
yeah. Well, shall I read the first verse? All right, here it
Of
is.
course.
So a little gratitude and prayer to my gurus, who are the only source of enlightenment, these pure souls who know everything, and they're gracing us with some mercy and some intelligence. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Sri Bhaktivai Baba Puri Goswami Maharaj. So here we are. So chapter 5, and I can just read it on the screen actually. Arjuna said, O Krishna, first of all, you asked me to renounce work, and then again, you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? So, we just came from chapter 4, and in the end of chapter 4, for those of you who weren't with us, Krishna says, stand and fight. He says, think of me and fight. And he calls the doubts that Arjuna is having coming from ignorance. He says they're coming from ignorance, and we're going to talk about that. Where do doubts come from? And they're not always coming from ignorance, but ultimately, when Arjuna is asking this question, he says, stand and fight. Do your duty. He's a warrior. Do your duty. Do your work, and don't be attached to the results. Don't even think about the results, because that's what sent Arjuna kind of into perplexity. Like, if I do this, then this will happen, then I'll suffer. Well, if I do that, then that'll happen, and then there'll be this kind of... And so that's kind of where our minds go, right? How often are we grounded in the present moment and we're letting go of the result? How often are we doing our work for the sake of the work? And that's actually the freedom formula. To do your work for the sake of the work. The results might become super fantastic, like something you never dreamed possible, because you've let go of the attachment and you're not doing it for that anymore. So you actually become more powerful. When you let go of the results, you actually become more present. And in this present moment, when you're a soul, you have the highest ability for connecting and tapping into that consciousness, the pure consciousness of who you really are. So the mind is what lives in the future. The mind is what lives in the calculations and thinking about, what should I do in the future? What should I do now to get me this result in the future? The mind lives in the past, like what happened before. Maybe I have fear now because of some suffering I experienced before. So if we can notice throughout our day, like, where are we living? Is our mind chattering so much that we're living completely in the mind, in the projection of the future, in the calculations of the future? And how satisfied are we? So this is just thoughtful questions for real everyday life. Like, how often am I really here? Like right now, I'm here. Me, you, we're here, right? And I can be in my brain, oh, I have my notes and this is what I'm gonna say, or I can be present. And I can allow myself to see what even a channel like Paramatma, Super Soul, brings into this conversation. And that is, it's a beautiful peace formula to really be in the moment, in the work, with our minds fixed on God. That's what Kṛṣṇa is saying. Fix your mind on me. And I do have a couple quotes here. So in Bhagavad Gita 4:42, he says, cut the doubts born of ignorance, right? He talks about the doubts that Arjuna is facing, that they're tamas, mode of ignorance. So sattva is the mode of enlightenment, the present being conscious, and mode of goodness. So the essence of sattva is to bring to conscious awareness that which till now was not present. So that means waking up to your spiritual consciousness, tapping in, connecting to who you really are as a soul. And that, of course, takes association also, like associating with books, associating with sound vibrations, associating with people who know the truth. And that's what Kṛṣṇa said earlier. You serve people who already know the truth, and they're going to give you realizations. And service even can be reading the Bhagavad Gita, right? Kṛṣṇa's shared that studying the Bhagavad Gita is service with our minds, service with our intelligence. So he's giving that instruction, and then Arjuna's here confused. He says, well, wait a minute, you've told me to be renounced. So I want to know if anybody catches this. You can put it in your comments if you do. Has Kṛṣṇa told Arjuna to be renounced? And if so, where and when? Where and when in the Bhagavad Gita previously did Kṛṣṇa say, be renounced? And when someone hears the word renounced, it could be, there could be different kinds of renunciation. And so in this case, it's clear that Arjuna is asking this question because he's thinking to be renounced means to not fight. To be renounced means to not do his work as a warrior. To be renounced means to go and meditate on God and step back. So, but then Kṛṣṇa says, lean in. Kṛṣṇa says, lean in. And Arjuna's like, no, I'm supposed to step back. So I'm very confused. Now, Kṛṣṇa states, cut your doubts, cut your ignorance with knowledge. And then, so what is that knowledge? Kṛṣṇa has actually shared in the past, do your duty, but don't claim the fruits. You're not entitled to claim the fruits. Now that can be very confusing for us in our modern society, because most of us are operating thinking that our action is often for a fruit, for a result. So it's a complete paradigm shift to think, I'm not working for any result. Now, this consciousness means right now, I have everything I need. Pure consciousness needs nothing, hankers for nothing, wants for nothing. That's pure consciousness. When you really understand you're a soul and you're fully sustained by God, you're fully sustained and supported by the Lord, you actually don't need anything in that moment, in that moment. And then it goes to the next moment and the next moment. But as we stay present and we stay in this consciousness, then we can work without fruits. We can work without the mind being on the results. So Kṛṣṇa never said renounce your work, actually. If we look back, so now Arjuna is asking this question. Clearly he says, are you telling me to renounce my work? But then you're telling me to work in devotion. Devotion meaning like do my work and think of you. Do my work as an offering to you. Well, how? What? Wait a minute. But actually, if you look back in Bhagavad Gita, Kṛṣṇa never says renounce your work. Kṛṣṇa says in chapter 2, 47, he says, do your duty, but don't claim the fruits. And in 48, right after that, chapter 2, text 48, he says, act with equanimity, giving up the attachment of success or failure. So that can be mind-blowing for some of us. Like, wait a minute, I'm only doing this so that I can be successful. Okay, well, let's just try on this new set of clothes. Let's try on this spiritual concept. You can always go back to your old, ways, your old set of clothes, your old goals. But let's maybe this week, we just try this on. What if we do an experiment? That for the entire week, we decide that whatever we do, we're not doing it for a result. We're doing it for the action itself. We're doing it for that moment of a meditation, of an offering. So if I'm cooking, I'm not thinking, I've got to cook so my kids can eat something, right? That gives me a completely different experience. I'm doing it for the result. So am I in the moment? Is that a meditation? Probably not. Just the fact that I'm doing it for the result takes me out of that moment and gets me in my brain as opposed to in my soul, in my consciousness. So imagine if I say, okay, I'm cooking as an offering. I'm doing it for the work itself. So now, okay, what can I make for Kṛṣṇa? Eventually, of course, my kids will eat it. My child and my husband will eat it, but I'm thinking, okay, so I'm going to do this. So then I might think like, oh yeah, what do I want to make? What would be nice to make as an offering? So maybe I'll, make the same kind of thing, but now it's a different kind of consciousness. It's a different consciousness to it. So I think even today is Lord Balaram's appearance day, very, very special day. And I'm thinking, okay, what can I make for Lord Balaram? And I was like, okay, I'm going to make apple pie or apple crumble. I haven't decided, but I'm going to make something sweet and yummy and juicy. Excuse me. Now the entire process of me making that is going to be a meditation. The entire process is going to be enjoyable because I'm doing it with my heart and I'm doing it for the work itself. I'm not doing it for the result. So I'm going to try that on. And then even with real estate, so tomorrow we have inspections for a property that got under contract. So if I'm going there for these inspections for the result of I hope everything goes smoothly so that we can close on time and right. And then what if there's a hiccup? My experience would become stressful. What if there's not? What if it is smooth, but I'm there oh, okay, good. So I'm this is my goal and I'm watching the whole time. Is everything okay? Is everything smooth? Is everything gonna, oh, and there's a hiccup. Let me maybe overcome that. But if you can tell even in my body language, just by the thought, okay, I'm doing this so that we can get through any hurdles and that we can move as smoothly as possible to the goal of closing. There's anxiety already that comes. There's some stress in my body and and I'm already pulled out of the moment because my mind is on the result. My mind is on, okay, I need to do this for this. So I'm watching, looking, everything is now interpreted through that attachment to things going smoothly. Now let's try on the new set of clothes that I decide this week I'm gonna fully try on. Try to do it all week, all day, all week. See what that looks like. So that new set of clothes is, I'm doing this for the work itself. So I'm going there fully curious, fully open, no attachment to a result. Meaning, so if something goes wrong and even if these buyers pull out, then maybe the best buyer is someone else. But now I have detachment from that result, and I'm in the moment. And now the same things will happen, right? Either the inspection will go smoothly and we'll get to closing and we'll see, oh yes, this was the right match, the buyers and the sellers. Or there'll be a hiccup and the buyers will pull out, and then we'll put it back on the market and learn more and do more in our, marketing presentation. And then another buyer will come and that there'll be a match. So now if I'm attached to a result through that process, it's going to be so much more stressful. Now, if I'm detached, but I'm still committed, I'm still clear and committed, and I'm committed to it getting to closing. It doesn't mean I'm detached and I'm like, who cares? These buyers are the next buyers. I mean, none of my clients would want to work with me if that was my attitude. But if I'm attached to the work and detached to the result, then I still can be clear. I can still be clear. I have clear intention that we're getting to closing. But as the hiccups come or as the obstacles come, I'm calm and I'm in that moment fully. And because I'm not living in the future moment, the future goal, the attachment to the result, I'm not like reacting. Now I can respond. I can respond powerfully. I can respond with all of my intelligence. None of my intelligence is being taken up with anxiety or fear. So I'm in sattva. I'm connected to my real soul, my real nature. And I'm not letting tamagun, fear, tamas, like ignorance and fear and doubt and oh my God. And I'm not letting passion, rajas, which is like agitation of the mind and like attachment to the results and like work, go. I'm not like staying up till midnight to make sure everything is T's are crossed and I's are, it's like, no, I'm doing it in natural time and I'm committed and I'm clear. And now I'm actually more efficient because I have all of my faculties and I'm in a calm state. So even scientifically, we've seen that when those are in anxiety, we don't make the best choices. We don't optimal could maybe be better than the word best, right? So the optimal space to make choices is sattva. When we're in rajas, which is like some agitation, some attachment, some anxiety, and I'm moving into tamas now, and some fear and some doubt. When we're in any of those realms, we're more likely to be reactive and less likely to be proactive, less likely to be responsive. So I'm going to try that on. I'm going to try on this new set of clothes. I encourage you to, what would it look like if today I did things only for the thing itself, right? And not for the fruits. So, because here Kṛṣṇa, again, he says it in chapter 248 that I just mentioned, chapter 2, text 48, letting go of success and failure. And for some of us, that might be like, that's crazy. I'm definitely doing things to be successful. Now, we might become successful, but I'll guarantee that on the way there, we're going to be present in the journey when we can let go of the fruits. And then in chapter 3, he talks about action is better than inaction. So he's actually already indicated to Arjuna, I don't know if those of you remember, he talks about those who see inaction in action and action in inaction. And I'm not going to pick that apart, but it's a shift in consciousness. But he talks about action being better than inaction, that doing and serving. And actually, this is a quote by, I think it was Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and I'm hoping I'll do it justice, that he said, it would be a great achievement for many of my disciples to come into rajas. And now what that means is some of his disciples were in tamas, like don't do anything. Like renunciation means like I sit around and I maybe I chant, I meditate, but I like don't engage in the world much. Maybe I'm operating more in like laziness or sleepiness or like inertia, lack of endeavor. And so if he's saying it would be a progress to go to passion, which is like, passion is usually attached to the result, but it's like, it's working. It's like, okay, I'm going to create this Harinam and I'm going to call all these people and I'm going to organize it and we're going to go out and sing God's names together, right? And you might be attached, like, I need to get at least 20 people there. That's mode of passion. Now, even better than that would be going to goodness, which is, I'm going to act. I'm going to call 20, 30, 50 people, and I'm detached from how many people come. but we're going to sing the names of God, maybe sit in a park and sing the names of God for the benefit of everyone around us, all the souls around, the animals, the trees, the humans, and ourselves, and God's pleasure, right? So, but I'm clear. So sattva means I'm doing it, and if 5 people show up, success. If 2 people show up, success. If 100 people show up, success. So now I'm so much more free. I'm actually free because I haven't made the results my focal point. I've made the work my focal point. So Kṛṣṇa says, action. He's in the past said, action is better than inaction. So he's actually never saying renounce and go to the forest and just meditate and don't engage in this material world. He hasn't actually given that instruction. So again, here's Arjuna in his question. Wait, you told me renunciation. So let's see what Kṛṣṇa actually has said. So in chapter 3, text 30, he says, dedicate your activities to me and fight without attachment. So the question that Arjuna is asking about what's better, renouncing or devotional service? Arjuna is talking about which kind of renunciation. And again, like maybe as you're watching this in the future, even you can comment. So Arjuna is not talking about renunciation of fruits of the work. He's talking also about renunciation of the action. When he first starts, right, his Gandiva bow is slipping from his hands. He's trembling. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't want to fight. He's stepping back. He's like, I'm not in this. And then Kṛṣṇa speaks to him again and again. And he talks about, focus your mind on me. Do this for me. Gain knowledge. Seek a spiritual teacher. Serve them. Get knowledge from them. And then in that knowledge, stand and fight. Do your duty. Dedicate it to me. Do your duty without attachment to the fruits. Do your duty without the goal being the priority. Rather, the action is an offering. Transfer that action into an offering as you think of God, as you change your consciousness. So the central distinction here isn't do less, want less, abandon your work. No, the distinction is abandon the attachment to the result. So now, and maybe this happens in our daily life. Maybe we can look at our lives, like how often have we operated in attachment to a result, and how did that turn out for us? And that's maybe something you want to journal on or think about today. Think back of a specific time that you had an attachment to a result, and how did that turn out? And then think, if you can, find a time when you did it for the work itself. Maybe you were volunteering somewhere and there was no result to be had. It was just your service in that moment. How did that feel? How did that work out for you? And I'm going to invite Atul, because it's only the end of class, I'm going to invite Atul back in case he wants to comment on anything that I'm sharing. And yeah, I wanted to share the distinction between our inclination and our attachment. And so that's what Atul was talking about earlier too. Like he said, sometimes we do need to lean back. And so that's a distinction. That's a distinction between attachment to a result, right? So like, of course we can have material desires, like, oh, I want this thing. And we can study ourselves. Right? Yoga is about studying the divine and studying ourselves. And we can make that distinction between, am I doing this? Am I wanting this? Am I working towards this for my senses to enjoy, for my mind to enjoy, or my senses to enjoy, or my ego to enjoy, right? Or am I doing this because it's my nature? Am I doing this because it's my psychophysical nature this lifetime? And so one thing I really liked, and I jotted this down, is that inclination might be like, I want to teach. But attachment would be like, people need to admire me for what I teach. Inclination might be like, I want to succeed in business. And attachment would be like, well, I need a certain number to prove my worth. Like I need to have made this much money. Inclination might sound like, oh, I want to be a wonderful parent. Right? That might be our nature, to want to serve nicely and at a high level as a parent. But attachment would be something like, my kid needs to turn out this way. right? It's the result. Inclination could be like, oh, I want to build this thing. This is just like I have some like pull, some internal pull to build this program or this offering, or and the attachment would be like, I have to succeed at it. Can we feel the weight of that? Can we feel that difference? Right? Can you, Prabhu, like feel the difference?
Definitely. And I think it will be a good idea sometimes, especially when we are under pressure, to stop for a bit, breathe a little bit, and remember asking yourself, like, why am I doing this? And at the end, who is this for? And then just a couple of minutes. It's not going to make a huge difference in what we are actually doing, but the way that we are seeing things will switch definitely. And treat ourselves with kindness too,
Mm, yeah.
because sometimes we can have also an inner critic that is like, oh, again, you were very attached to these fruits. And it's like, okay, okay, I'm not going to beat me because of that. It happened.
Hmm.
uh let's just refocus you
Mm.
know
I love that. And actually, I'm going to add to that. I'm going to piggyback on that. I think when we act as the Bhagavad Gita is saying, that is amazing. That is like high level. That is like optimal. So to understand that if we're doing that ever, we're already succeeding on the path, as opposed to like, oh, I should do it all the time. And I'm failing if I don't do it sometimes. It's like, well, actually, we live in this material world. We've been conditioned for lifetimes. So the fact that we're even moving in the direction of working for the sake of working, or working and thinking about God, like we should be patting ourselves on the back or giving ourselves big hugs, or like affirming, like you're doing really great. You're moving in that direction. Because I think, yeah, and there was something I wanted to touch on even in the class, that the doubts that Arjuna came with, which was interesting. Krishna didn't say, "Oh, here you are again in ignorance. You're asking me questions again." No, he answers them. You'll see the next class. The next class, he answers Arjuna's questions. So to be mindful that like doubts are gonna come, confusion is gonna come. We're gonna go on the path that the road more traveled as opposed to the road less traveled. We're gonna do it because that's actually the norm around us. So definitely giving ourselves grace, and you see Krishna accepted Arjuna. He spoke strongly, like get knowledge, slash your doubts, and stand and fight. But he fully accepted him. Then when Arjuna still was like, okay, you've told me what to do, and now I still have another question. I still have more doubts. Wait, I'm supposed to renounce, but now you're telling me to work in service. And so Krishna answers those questions. Yes, work in service. He reaffirms it again because he's seen Arjuna's doubts. He's full of compassion. Like, oh, Arjuna's wondering what renunciation really means, right? Do I renounce my work? No. Again, Krishna's ready to talk about we're renouncing the fruit of our work. And even higher than that is we're working fully for service. And so yeah, I love that you bring in be kind to yourself, because I think when we read all these texts, we have to understand ourselves and be kind to ourselves and study, and that's going to bring us the highest trajectory. I think if we beat ourselves up, it's going to slow down our spiritual progress, actually, because that's tamas. That's, Krishna accepts us. So accept ourselves where we are. That's sattva acceptance, and then move from there. And so thank you for bringing that in.
And I also want to take the opportunity to thank Lean and Sienna for her comments, as always. It seems like we don't have any more questions, but then I would like to conclude today. Then, basically, just to remember that we are supposed to offer everything to Krishna. So, having like set a purpose at the beginning of the day will be very helpful. That
Mhm.
when we are under stress, sometimes the best thing that we can do is stop for a minute and try to remember why I'm doing this for, what is the purpose, am I truly offering it to Krishna? how can I offer it to Krishna? And I am truly attached to the results, or am I behaving in this way because of other reason? And just let go of all of that and
Well,
saying,
can I
thank you,
interrupt you?
Krishna.
Well, I want to also add, instead of, I feel like that's so high, and I like to say I'm going to let go of that. I want to invite one other option. When we see that we're attached to the results, let's dig in. Let's journal about why. Because maybe it's because we're fearful that we're not good. And we can look at that and understand, oh, I have this attachment to the results because I want to prove that I'm good because I don't know that I'm good, right? And then we can stop and maybe even change that consciousness, adjust that consciousness to wait, well, actually, I am good. I'm a soul. I'm made of the same material as God. I'm deep at the core, we're all good, right? We might have layers, but identifying with our true selves. So I think sometimes when we have attachment to the results, we can pause, notice it, and maybe even journal about it to go deeper, to allow us not necessarily to just let go of that, but to take care of our need, take care of what's underneath it, instead of just doing the external to get some affirmation that we're okay. So because I feel like I see that a lot, that a lot of people, and whether that's, the way in which we were, the society today, so to speak, the way in which maybe our mistakes were pointed out more than our achievements or our correct actions. That's very typical, I think, in parenting. Don't do this, do this, don't do, right? That's very common. So there's definitely generations of people who feel like I'm not good enough. And so, like, let's not make that I'm not good enough a hindrance for our spiritual growth. So if we see it and we understand it, we can still take care of that part of ourselves. We can change that consciousness. Like, wait, actually, I am good enough, and I'm going to change the neuro patterns that are happening in my brain, so that I can read this philosophy and be okay with where I am as I grow, as I evolve. So I just wanted to offer that.
Thank you very much, Haripriya. That was truly delightful, and I think that many of us will find it very helpful. I hope everybody who was able to watch this live, or who will be able to watch it later on YouTube, will have the time also to reflect a little bit. And if you have also a piece that you would like to share to somebody on this journey, because renounce the fruits of labors is not easy, and sometimes sharing those experiences with others help us feel connected,
Mm.
and motivate us to keep going in this process. So if you want, please comment on the video, and thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you all again in a new opportunity later on in Ashram Talks. Radhe Radhe.